Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Twister Strudel. And it's the new year! Yay! For this video, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Because it is the new year, and we can leave 2020 behind us with its highs and its lows, I'm going to be going through my personal top 25 games of all time. Board games, that is. As many of you all know, I love board games. Or if you watch this channel, you'll notice that I have a couple of board game reviews, specifically apps. But I really love board games. I enjoy bringing them to people's houses and playing with other people. I love the social interactions that it brings. And so I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of a ranking video. Now, a couple of disclaimers. First off, obviously, this is my personal list. This is not an objective thing whatsoever. These are just games that I really enjoy playing. But if there are any omissions that you feel should have made the list, or any games that you really like, feel free to put them in the comments. I would love to engage in a bit of a conversation with you guys as far as what you may enjoy. Obviously, we all have different tastes in games and styles and mechanics and our experience in the hobby, and there's no right or wrong answer. But if you're interested into why some of these games are on the list, I'll leave a very brief description of the type of games I personally enjoy in the description box below. But I don't want to waste any of your time. Let's get right on to it. So this is going to be a two-part series. My first video today that you are watching is going to be from 25 to 10, giving brief descriptions of the games, and then I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the 10 to 1. I'm excited. Let's get right into it. For my number 25 game, this is a classic. One that works with multiple different groups of people, one that is widely known, and this is Ticket to Ride. In Ticket to Ride, you're going to be connecting these train routes from city to city in order to build your train empire, I suppose. You're going to have these tickets that'll connect from one city of the board all the way to another, and on your turn, you're going to have one of three actions that you can choose. You can either choose to pick up more train cards, you can use those train cards to put down routes from one city to another to slowly connect to complete those big routes, or you can pick up even more tickets. If you can complete your train routes that is listed on your ticket, you will gain points, but if you don't, at the end of the game, you're going to lose the number of points that is listed on that ticket. This is a game that is well known for a reason. I love how simple it is to play with the fact that you just choose one action out of three. It's something that allows you to play with multiple different groups of people, people with different interests, or people of different age groups. And the second reason I love this game is the fact that whether I win or lose, I feel like I have created something, that I've done something to help impact the game. And part of it is the scoring. The scoring reinforces that feeling you get of being able to create something in front of you, making you feel like your actions were impactful. Considering that in a game of Ticket to Ride, you can score anywhere from 80 to 150 points. It's simple, it's quick, it's easy to get into, and it just works with so many people. And so that is my number 25, Ticket to Ride. My number 24 is the first game on this list that features my favorite genre of board games, social deduction. And if you don't know what social deduction is, think Among Us, where you have some crewmates and there's one traitor that you're trying to figure out. Now, this game that I'm going to talk to you about is a card game called Saboteur, and in this you are a bunch of dwarves that are going into a gold mine trying to find out where the gold nuggets are in this mine. You're going to have an entrance, and on the other side there are three cards, one of them which has a gold piece, and you're going to be laying down paths to try and get to the gold mine first, because if you get there first, you will have the first pick of the lot up to the gold. But there is a traitor among you who wants to stop you from getting to the gold. They're going to try and be laying down their paths to block you. And the really cool part is, for the traitor, is that you want to place these cards down to try and stop them, but not to, still in a way that kind of tricks them, saying, okay, I can only play this card down because it's the only one in my hand. That works, when in reality you're just playing this to try and divert them to another direction. Again, one of the reasons why I love Saboteur is the fact that it is just easy to play. Again, you're just laying cards down. Some of them will have special abilities, like the ability to look at one of the pieces to see if the gold is underneath there, or to block paths, destroy paths, so that people will have to try and find another way through. This is one game where I haven't played it a whole lot over the last couple of years, hence why it's a little bit lower on this list, but it is one that I'm always willing to pull out and I always have a fun time with it. That is my number 24, Saboteur. My 23 is an oldie but a goodie. This is the classic game of Cribbage. At the start of a round, you're going to have a hand of cards and you're going to select 1 or 2 cards to put into what's called the crib, and that will be assigned to someone for later on in that round. But you're going to go through the next phase, which is pegging, and you're going to be laying down cards to get sets of 15, 31. You're going to try and go for runs or sets of 2 and 3 of the same number, that is. And then in the last round, the last phase of the round rather, you're going to be taking these cards back to your hand, and then you're just going to be using your hand and doing the same thing, finding sets of 15, finding pairs, triplets, runs, flushes, all these different things. It's very simple, and I like the balance between the luck aspect and the skill in this game. And it's one that is fairly well known, so I can play it with many other people. And it's one that I've always come back to on my phone whenever I just need a nice break or need to stretch my mind a little bit. It's a classic for a reason. That is my number 23, Cribbage. My number 22 is a party game, but unlike some party games, this is one where you are working together. This is Just One. So in Just One, you're going to have one person who's the guesser, and at the start of the round, the guesser is going to go off to the side while everyone else sees a word that they are trying to get them to guess. And everyone's going to write down a one-word clue, but before the guesser comes in and sees everyone's clues, the people are going to deliberate and share their clues with the rest of the group. And if any of those clues match, they're taken away. And so the guesser will have to guess what the word is based off of the other clues that are left on the table. So for example, if I were trying to get someone to guess the word snowman, I might write frosty, but if someone else writes the clue frosty to try and get them to guess snowman, we have to eliminate that word from the entire table, and they cannot use that as a clue to try and guess the word snowman. This is a game which is very simple, but it's very, very interesting as far as how to write the perfect clue. You want to give a clue that is vague enough that it's not similar with other people's clues, but still specific enough that you can get them to guess what the original word is. It's a lot of fun. It's very easy to play. Once again, something that can go well with every group, and the fact that you're working together is a huge plus as well. That is my number 22. Just One. My number 21 is a game called Bonanza. In Bonanza, you are a couple of bean farmers trying to make the most profit of your crops. And on your turn, you're going to be laying cards down onto your fields. But then in the second phase of the game, you're going to be flipping cards from the deck. And the interesting part is those cards that you flip from the deck have to be planted. And so then you enter into this phase where you can trade and try and see who else might take those cards off your hands if you don't need them for some cards that they might want to get rid of. And it's very interesting to see how much they value the beans themselves, because each of them have a different rarity. It'll show the number of how many are in the deck in total, but also how they value whether the person wants to keep that bean or how badly they want to give it away. I've been in multiple different groups where it can get cutthroat, where it's like, yeah, it may not be advantageous to you, but the fact that you need to get rid of that bean, you really don't want to plant it, I'm going to give you potentially worse deal so I can benefit off of getting potentially a rarer bean. It's one that I've been in many different social dynamics, and each of them is very interesting as to how it plays out. And the game, again, is one that just makes sense thematically. The fact that you can only have a certain amount of beans planted in your field. It's worked with the majority of people that I've played with. It's one that I love to play and go back to. That is my number 21, Bonanza. My number 20 is another card game that has to do with food, but instead of beans, this is with sushi. That's right, this is Sushi Go, or in this specific instance, Sushi Go Party. Whichever one that you get, you'll get a lot of mileage out of it. In Sushi Go, you're gonna have a hand of cards of different types of sushi and different things that you would find in a sushi restaurant. And on your turn, everyone at the same time is going to draw a card, play it face down, wait till everyone has chosen it. You're going to flip at the same time and hand off your cards, which kind of emulates this conveyor belt that is going around with sushi on top of it. And you're grabbing the sushi as it goes. And the reason why you want to do that is if you get certain combos of sushi, it'll give you more points. And so some sushi might give you just like straight 1, 2, or 3 points. Some you might want a certain type of sushi in order to get points. Like maybe if you have the most of this type, you will get certain points for that. Some of it will start with low numbers, but will increase in the amount of points the more you obtain. And it's just a lot of fun. It's, again, very easy. Just take one, flip, pass it on. It's very easy to score. The way that the scoring works, it's really well done and gives everyone at the table a feeling that they are accomplishing something. With the regular Sushi Go version, you have just the one deck of cards that you play with, and we've lasted this long without having to need to play the party version. But if you do go for the party version, then you can have a wide variety. You can mix and match different combinations and see what that does to change the game and change how the points are scored. And it adds a lot of replayability to an already great game that has stood the test of time for us. And so that is going to be my number 20 Sushi Go Party. My number 19 is an oldie but a goodie. This is one where you have a circular wooden board and you're flicking wooden discs at each other. That's right, this is Crocodile. In Crocodile, like I said, you're going to be flicking discs, trying to get to the center of this wooden board, trying to get the most points by doing so. But the trick is, if you have an opponent who has a wooden disc on the board, you have to make sure that your disc, or one of your discs, whether it's on the board or whether you're flicking it, it has to touch and move another disc on the board. Otherwise, you take it off and it doesn't count. What I love about Crocodile that you can rarely find in other games is the tense situations that you find yourself in, where you might have a near impossible shot, but one good flick, whether it's intentional or not, can create such a stand-up moment where it's like, wow, I didn't realize I could pull this off. Or where you flick a disc and you hit your opponent into the direct center where you want it to be. It gives you a feeling that you rarely find in many other games. And so Crocodile is one that hits this list at number 19. My number 18 is another short card game, but this time, unlike many other board games and card games, you're actually going to be staying silent while you play the game. This one is called The Mind. Now in The Mind, you're going to have a hand of cards, and the amount of cards you have is going to be dependent on which level you're at. You're going to start easy with 1, then you go to 2, 3, so on and so forth. And your goal, you're working together with the rest of the people at the table to lay down cards one at a time from lowest to highest in ascending order, but you have to stay silent, instead relying on everyone's sense of time to be able to determine when to place down cards. Now this can create really tense situations where you may have a card in your hand that's not quite close to the card that's on this. Let's say, for example, you had a 33 on there and you might have a 44. So you want to wait a little bit for just in case other people have a certain card, but you don't want to wait too long because someone else might be thinking, okay, we passed the point where we're at like 44, 45, I'm gonna play a 50. Because if they do that, you lose a life and you have to keep on going. It creates for really interesting interactions, and I can totally see where if you play this a lot, you might get a little bit sick of it, especially if you play with the same amount of people. But this is one that I would love to go back to after playing a couple months, maybe with my wife, and just see, are we still in sync? Or bring to another group of friends where it's like, okay, now I need to get in sync with a whole new different group of people. And it's just one that I really enjoy. It's almost a small activity than it is a game, but nonetheless, it is going to make it here. My number 18, The Mind. My number 17, we're going back to our social deduction games, and this one's set in the Wild Wild West. This is called Bang. And I know there's a dice game that many people say is better. I've never actually played it, but this is going to be Bang, the card game. In this, you're going to have different roles. You have a sheriff with its deputies trying to get rid of all the bad guys. You have the outlaws who are trying to just get rid of the sheriff. And you have the renegade who is trying to be the last person standing. And so on your turn, you're going to be getting these cards in your hand. You're going to be playing down cards to try and shoot at other opponents. But again, you don't know who anyone is except for the sheriff. The sheriff's the only one who everyone else knows. So you could be shooting at someone you think is an outlaw, but in reality, you might be shooting your own deputy, which I've actually done and destroyed, and there's a bad consequence with that. Now, I know there are a couple of flaws in the game. For one, if you get eliminated early, there's still a potential for a lot of game left to be played, and so you might be sitting around for a while, and in between turns there can be a lot of downtime. But at the same time, I had a lot of nostalgia playing this game, and maybe this is more of a nostalgia pick, and I'm okay with admitting that. But I've had many times where I played this with my family. I played this at dance recitals. I played this with some youth at a drop-in that I work at, and it has gone well in so many ways, and I'm willing to come back to it despite some of the flaws that it may have. So that is my number 17, bang. My number 16 is a game in the line that's called Tiny Epic Games, where they try and deliver this epic experience in a tiny box. And the first one that I'm gonna have on here is called Tiny Epic Galaxies. In Tiny Epic Galaxies, you are a group of astronomers, or I sometimes like to think of it as like an alien race that you're controlling, and you're going to be discovering planets, utilizing the abilities and colonizing them, upgrading your empire in your quest to get the most points. This is one that, again, it uses a mechanic that is something that everyone knows, the Yahtzee style where you're rolling dice and then you have a reroll. It's something that everyone can get used to, and again, when it comes to downtime, as far as like waiting for other people's turns, you can actually follow other people's actions as long as you pay certain resources. This is one that goes well with most people that I've played with. The scoring is tight. It's very, very fluid as far as the gameplay goes. I always have a lot of fun playing this. It really does work very well. That is Tiny Epic Galaxy. My number 15 is going to be a card game that is fast-paced, that has a lot of chaoticness to it, if that's a word. This one is Dutch Blitz, and in Dutch Blitz you're going to have a pile of 10 cards, and every card that is in the deck has a different number value from 1 to 10, different color, and you're going to try and get rid of this pile by playing cards from your hand in the middle of the table at the same time as everyone else by playing numbers from the deck in front of you and in your hand, again going from 1 to 10 in the respective colors. I love the chaotic nature of this game and how it brings out the best and sometimes the worst in people, but again, in a good way. I've never actually had a negative experience with this as far as I can recall. This is one where it just lends itself to very chaotic moments where you might be blocked by someone else who played a card just before you and you just want to like scream out and say, "Ah, you blocked me!" But then at the end of the game, we all shake hands and everything's all good. I've had so many laugh out loud moments from things people have said during a game of Dutch Blitz. And it's one that I'm gonna go back to because of those moments. Like that's what I look for in gaming. Those moments where you can laugh out loud and have lots of great memories as a result of that. I know this isn't a game that everyone can get behind. Some people, their brains doesn't kind of connect in the whole fast-paced thing, and that's completely good. We all have different tastes and different things that we are willing to go through. But for me, I love that fast-paced nature. It's right up my alley, and so that's going to be my number 15. Dutch Blitz. All right, my number 14, we are going right back to social deduction, and this one is a small card game called Spyfall. I think there's a couple different of Spyfalls. There are 2 regular ones, and then there's a DC one with some extra powers. Anyways, in Spyfall, you're gonna be at a place. There's a map of different places you can be at, such as a carnival, a concert, a restaurant, a construction site. And the majority of the people know where they all are and will have a role at that place. So there's a little bit of role playing in there for some people. But one person is the spy. And the spy doesn't know where everyone's at. And so for the goal for the spy is they're going to be asking questions of other people to try and deduce where they could possibly be. But the other people are going to be asking questions to try and see who is the spy. Of the people who are answering your questions, which one seems the most suspicious? And so it's very simple. On your turn, you're going to ask someone a question. They have to answer based off of either where they're at with their location according to their role, or if they're the spy, they have to make it up. And it's very interesting to see the type of questions that are made. Again, you have to make questions that are obvious enough that you can kind of figure out who really knows where they are, but still vague that the spy doesn't find out where the location is, because if the spy does and says, hey, I know where it is, and guesses it right, they win the game. That is going to be Spyfall, my number 14. My number 13 is going to be one that's a little bit odd for myself. It's going to be a trick-taking game. So if trick-taking is a weird word, think of the game Hearts, where you're laying down cards as trying to get a certain amount of tricks. This is not a game style I normally like, but this one game, Wizard, or as some of my family likes to say, Golf, is one that I love. In this one, you're going to be playing a trick-taking set, and again, depending on the round will depend on how many cards in your hand. But before you do any of the trick-taking, you're going to be guessing how many cards or how many tricks you're going to win. So if I start with one card in my hand and I think I'm going to win this one, I'm going to guess 1. Or if I have 5 and I think I'm going to win 2 of the tricks, I'll say, okay, I'm going to predict that I will win 2 of the tricks that are played of the 5. If you get it right, you'll get points, but if you get it wrong, you get nothing. Similar to Cribbage, I love the balance between the luck and the strategy that is in it. Again, a lot of fun. One that I will gladly recommend with a basic deck of cards. That is Wizard. All right, moving on, my number 12 is a small card game called Coup. And in Coup, you are going to have 2 cards in front of you face down that only you know what they are. Each of the cards are going to have a specific leader attached to them, and each leader has a specific ability, or it allows you to block certain abilities of other leaders. And so on your turn, you're going to take one action. That could be an action that everyone can take, or that could be an action that is attributed to a leader. But the trick is, because you're the only person who for sure knows which cards are in front of you, you can try to use the action of a leader that isn't in front of you. You can use any leader action and try to bluff your way through it. However, if you get caught out for using an action of a leader that you do not have, you have to flip a token over. Your ultimate goal is to get rid of other leader tokens, and you can do that by calling people out on their bluffs, or trying to eliminate them by using these power tokens to get rid of someone else's abilities. This is another very short game, so once again, if you get called out for bluffing, it's not like you're going to be heavily punished for a good majority of the game. You'll just be out for potentially a round, and you hop right back in on another one. I love the light amount of bluffing that is in the game, and the fact that it's quick and it scales well. It just works with so many different people that I've played with, and I've had a lot of great gaming experiences with this one. So that is my number 12, Coup. My number 11 is one that I haven't played a whole lot of, but I've already fallen in love with this game, and this is called Sentinels of the Multiverse. In Sentinels of the Multiverse, you can play as a co-op or as a solo player mode. It works either way, but you are working together as superheroes to defeat a villain and foil their plans. And so the base game comes with like 10 heroes and 4 villains and 4 locations, and you can mix and match each of those, and you can get a great amount of replayability. And there are more heroes, more villains, more locations with each expansion, more different ways to play. There's just a lot of game to be played here, and it's very interesting trying to find the unique ways to defeat each villain using the hero combinations that you have, trying to utilize your abilities. And you'll notice that certain cards with certain heroes will work with certain combinations, but then you might be using different cards that might help you get an edge with a different combination. There's so much content here, just so much to unpack, and the fact that it is not tied to Marvel or DC, you can take that as a plus or a negative depending how you feel about it. But I personally love the refreshing take it has on the superhero genre, and it even provides backstories into each and every one of them, kind of giving you a new world to explore. So that is my number 11, Sentinels of the Multiverse. And that is it for today's episode. Next week I'm going to be doing my numbers 10 to 1, so you can be excited for that. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments whether you agree, whether you disagree. What are some games that you are interested in? Maybe some that you're hoping are in the top 10. Yeah, let me know. I'd love to engage in some discussion on that. But until next time, we will see you later.